Hello, everyone. Welcome to the All Things Good podcast. I'm your coach and your host, Jovanna. Thank you so much for tuning into the podcast that helps you with mental health, self development, and your overall wellness, helping you become the greatest version of yourself. How are you guys doing? I want to hear from my listeners. I want you to start engaging in the comments, whether it be on YouTube, whether it be on Spotify, iHeartRadio, iTunes, or WMNF Radio, because we are now on 88.5's website. So that is one announcement that I guess I should have made. But yes, if you did not know, we are now streamable through 88.5 FM radio. You go to WMNF.org. You can go to the podcast section and you'll be able to find all things good on that website. And I'm so excited and honored to be a partner with 88.5 radio. So you can stream through the website, you can stream through whatever platform you feel best works for you. But overall, the point of me saying this is to say that I want to hear from you. I want my listeners to start engaging with me. Who knows? Maybe you can have an opportunity to be a guest on the podcast. Maybe you have a story that you can share with the world. Or maybe you have a question that you want one of us to answer, whether it be me or a future guest. I want to hear from you. You can send your questions, you can send your comments, or anything else that you want to share at allthingsgoodcoaching@gmail.com. I want to hear from you. So today we're going to be talking to Kam Knight. He is a coach, he is an author, he is an international speaker, and hold on, he's a best-selling author of dozen books in the area of mental, emotional, and physical performance. He is known for bringing fresh solutions and insights that are rare departure from traditional ideas. And because of his fresh perspective, his books have become the gold standard for their respective topics, which have helped over 500,000 people. When he is not coaching or writing, he is traveling and having traveled to over 100 countries around the world. I can't wait to speak to him. His ideas are not traditional. That to me is amazing because no one likes tradition, right? We are looking for something different. We're looking for something spicy. So I'm looking forward to hearing what he has to say. Till then, I'm going to go ahead and play some music for you until our guest, Kam Knight, comes on and blesses us with his interview. Welcome, Kam. How are you today?
I am doing fantastic. How about yourself?
I am doing great. I'm so excited to have you on today. So, before we get into today's topic and to the serious discussions,
Yeah,
I do have an icebreaker question for you. Are you ready?
sure.
Okay. What is the one thing that you have been procrastinating on lately, even as the guy who studies this stuff?
Oof, that is a fantastic question. As someone who talks about procrastination, sabotage, and has worked really hard in overcoming this area, I still do have procrastinations. And I think the one thing is I want to start kind of creating more online meetups where I can invite people to come on and ask me questions, kind of like an office hours of the books I've written, the concepts I talk about, any other area that they want to develop themselves in, because I've been doing this work for a long, long time, and I just haven't gotten around to do it. So that's what I'm procrastinating on.
Okay, thank you so much for your vulnerability. I love that. And I hope that you will find the time. I know that you will because you're a pro. You're a master pro at this.
Yeah, I think I will. It'll be all right. I just need
Right.
to finish up some other things on my plate and then give myself the courage to kind of do this, but where I'm the host, more or less.
Right. And you know what? Everything has a time and a season, right? So it's just trusting that flow of when it's time to just press that record button, right?
I'm not like that. uh, I know every time, every there is a time and season for it, but my brain doesn't work that way. It's like, you're not doing this. Why aren't you doing this? What's going on? You should be doing it. And yeah, so
I love it. I love your vulnerability. Thank you so much for that.
yeah,
So let's jump into the questions. You talk about internal resistance.
right.
Can you explain what that is and what that feels like in the body and the mind?
Okay, so to understand resistance, it helps to understand that the part of the brain that creates wants and desires works separately and independent of the part that allows you to act on that desire. This is extremely important, so I'm going to repeat it. The part of the brain that creates wants works separately from the part that allows us to act on the want. So we have one part of the brain that's creating wants, and it's creating endless wants one after another at a pace faster than anyone can achieve. It doesn't check to see if we have the time, energy, or resources to
Mm.
achieve the want. It simply creates the wants. And then the other part gives a green light on the want. So it's a part that checks to see if we have the time, energy, and resources. So, what's really important to understand about this is our own brain can both create a want for something and at the same time hold us back. Now, I know this sounds crazy because for a long time I used to think whoever created us humans must have been a really twisted person, because how could they create all these wants and desires in us and not have us be able to go after them? But it makes sense when you think about it in this perspective. And so, anytime we do have a want or desire, the part that checks to see if we should go after it will evaluate that want using a whole host of criterias. And if that desire is not in line with any of the criterias, resistance will prevent action. So it helps
Wow.
to think about, yeah, standing before a panel of judges or board of directors. Every decision or desire we have must go through them. And if even one of the members is against the idea, it will not pass. So there are many criteria the brain evaluates. And in my journey, I've come across over 25 that the brain goes through. And some of the more simple ones include things like limiting beliefs, habits, comfort zones, and even things like authority issues and core needs. But it runs a gambit. And so, again, anytime we want to do something, it's just not a matter of, oh, we want it and we can do it. That desire does get filtered through this part of the brain, which I call resistance.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, which part of the brain is this? Do you have a terminology for that?
No, there isn't like a specific area of the brain. It's different parts of it, but it mainly relies in the prefrontal cortex. It's kind of like the control center, or the part that kind of manage our impulses. So you can think of our wants like an impulse, like this push to go after or do something, and then the impulse control kicks in and is like, wait a minute, is this worth going after? Will it be fulfilling? Can we achieve it? Is it even achievable? Because, our brain, because it's so unrestrained, this part of the brain that creates wants, it can create wants for something that's completely not in line with reality. This is where we get things like daydreaming and thinking about things that aren't even possible. And so we need another part that actually checks to make sure that what we're going after can actually be achievable, can be safe, and more importantly, can be fulfilling. But the problem is this part, which I call resistance, it can go overboard.
Mm.
It can go overboard in holding us back and even hold us back from things that are going to be enjoyable and fulfilling. So, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. So, what does that feel like? Like in the actual moments, what does the resistance feel like in the body? What does the desire feel like, or that area where we're analyzing our resources? Can you kind of describe that in a little bit?
Yeah, so it's a process that happens so fast and fluidly, we don't actually notice it happening. So when the mind creates the desire, that we all kind of know what it's like. It's these really positive feelings, it's this rush of excitement, feelings like things are going to change and our life is going to improve and we're going to have all these great things. And so that part we kind of know. But resistance, when it shows up, it doesn't show up in a overt way where we can tell we're in resistance. It shows up much more mildly where we are not actually able to do the thing. Or if it does show up in a way that's noticeable, it's more like hitting up against an invincible wall where we want to do the thing, but we just can't seem to move forward. It's as if something is holding us back. It kind of feels like being tied to a ball and chain, where it's like we're putting in effort, but either we're not getting anywhere, we're spinning in circles, or the progress is extremely slow.
Okay. Okay. That makes sense. So it's pretty much whatever you feel like, okay, the want, we're feeling joy, we're feeling blissful, we're feeling encouraged. But that resistance is just that pullback, saying like, okay, but.
That's what it is. And sometimes it does feel like a pullback, but a lot of times it just feels like, why can't I do it? Why can't I move
Mhm.
forward? Um, so I guess we could even describe it as like a feeling of being paralyzed. Because I think
Mm,
we've had those moments where we really wanted something and like we were just kind of stuck, paralyzed, unable to move. Whether it was we wanted to talk to someone that we found attractive, whether it was we wanted to raise our hand, or whether it was we wanted to, make that move, but we couldn't. And again, it doesn't have a strong feeling, but it can, in that it feels like we're either hitting up against a wall or we're feeling like we're being paralyzed.
okay. Okay, so what is the difference between procrastination and just simply needing rest?
So, this is a very good question. And on the surface, it seems like a simple question, but the answer is actually far from simple. And how I teach resistance is that we have a part of the brain that creates wants, and then we have another part of the brain that decides if we should go after that want. And if it says we shouldn't, it doesn't tell us that it doesn't want us to go after it. It doesn't say, hey, Jovanna, this thing that you're trying to do, well, it goes against our beliefs, so I can't let you do it. Or that goal of yours, well, it hits up against our authority issues, so we're just going to sit here and do nothing. That's not what happens. Resistance manifests other ways. Resistance actually uses manipulative tricks to keep us from moving forward. And there's so many tricks up its sleeve to prevent progress and keep us from moving forward. And one of them is to convince us that we should rest. Because as long as we start resting, we're not making progress. And as long as we're not making progress, resistance wins. So there's a fine line between procrastinating and resting, because what may seem like we're just taking a break could actually be procrastination. And it really is important for the person to kind of decide for themselves what it is. Like if they've been putting a lot of work, making a lot of progress, and they're really firing on all cylinders, and they're getting this feeling of, hey, it's time to rest, we made good progress, we should take a break, then that's probably rest. But if a person isn't, working hard, or their efforts have been mediocre and they know they should be doing more, and this feeling of rest is coming on, there's a good chance it's procrastination. Though, whatever it is, whether it's procrastination or rest, it's really important to keep in mind that the way the mind and body works is that when we do take a break or rest, mentally and physically, we are regressing. And to not rest for too long, and to make sure, regardless of the reason for our rest, that we kind of just jump back in and make sure we continue the forward momentum.
That's a real tough one because it's like you said, it's a very, very thin line when it comes
Yes.
to procrastination and resting.
Yeah.
Um, I'm learning how to rest. I mean, honestly, I've always been a rester. I don't know if I've been a procrastinator. I have to be honest with myself, to be honest. I think it requires a lot of honesty.
It's a lot of honesty because of the tricks. Because our brain is
Right.
so good at deceiving us, we have to be honest about why we're doing certain things, why we're not doing certain things. Because on the surface, it seems like we're doing it for one reason, like resting or so we don't burn out. But it could just be procrastination. And it is a fine line because if we don't give ourselves a rest, we can burn out. But if we give ourselves too much rest, it could just be a way of how our brain holds us back.
Right. And life is all about balance. And I think
Yes.
that is the key. Like, if I share anything, it's about the importance of balance. There's a time for everything. And I know you said, I mean, I know you believe in balance, but
Yeah.
for me, like, there's a time and a place for everything. So
Yes.
know your body, know your feelings, but also know those moments where your brain is saying, or creating a place of self sabotage or fear.
Yes.
So it's like really, like you said, really knowing who you are and really discerning those moments in your life.
Yeah. And this is what makes personal development a little challenging. A lot of times people make it seem like, oh, all you need is a goal, an action plan, and work hard, and you'll get there. But it's really not that simple. There are these things that we need to tread very on a very thin line, and this is one of them. And if a person doesn't know themselves too well, they could think that, oh no, I can definitely handle this and keep pushing through. And guess what? They burn out. And that's actually another trick of resistance is again, the goal of resistance is to hold us back. And it'll find whatever way to hold us back. And sometimes it'll make us think we can handle more than we really can. And then when we go put in all that effort and burn out, we can't make progress anymore and resistance wins. So it gets pretty, like really sneaky of how resistance can show up.
Now, what is the main purpose of resisting holding us back? Is that place of safety, that place of survival? Is that where that comes from?
Yeah, in a way, resistance is actually trying to help us. Like I said, the part of the brain that creates wants, it's completely unrestrained. Like it just creates wants and it's creating endless wants at a pace faster than any one person can achieve. And so even if you live multiple lives, you couldn't achieve, let alone even enjoy most of the wants your brain's producing. So that's why resistance is there to kind of check these wants. You can think of our wanting mechanism, the part that creates wants, like a kid in a candy store, and resistance like a parent trying to keep it in check. So, in many ways, resistance is there to be helpful. It's
Okay.
there to make sure that the wants that are coming up are going to be fulfilling, going to be achievable, going to be something that we can even achieve ourselves. But like I said, it can go overboard and hold us back from too many things, even the things that could be enjoyable, pleasurable. Kind of like it can become a very strict parent that doesn't allow us to do anything. So, yes, the goal of resistance is to be helpful, to keep us safe, and to make good, sound decisions and choices. But again, it can get out of hand and keep us from more than the more than just keeping us safe. It can really like hold us down.
Okay. And that kind of answers my next question was, can the internal resistance ever be useful or is it always a block?
It can be useful. And as I mentioned, it's very useful in a lot of ways because if our wanting mechanism had its way, we literally just like being all over the place, unrestrained, not able to stick with anything long term because our mind would just be going from one thing to another and to another, and it would get upset if it didn't get things right now, right away. It'd be very impulsive. And so the resistance piece is really, really useful in helping us manage and contain that. But again, like I said, when it gets too restrictive, it goes overboard and can hold us back. And a lot of the reason it goes overboard, it really has to do with our experiences growing up. If we didn't get a lot of encouragement, then our brain is just going to automatically start to assume that we're not capable or we can do a lot of stuff. But on top of that, if we got the opposite of encouragement and we had, people who are yelling at us, we had bullies making fun of us, teachers saying our work isn't good, and so we had negativity, that's going to have resistance think that the world is much more dangerous, we're far less capable, and it's going to hold us back for even more things. Though beliefs is only one part of the equation, like I said, there's a whole host of criterias that resistance will go through, and it'll look at just, yeah, go for it.
So, can you give us different criterias besides belief systems?
Yeah, one that I think really a lot of people is playing out for them, especially in all culture and society, is authority issues. So, authority issues relate to our unconsciously held attitudes toward authority figures such as parents, principals, priests, police officers, and even personal development coaches like you and me. And I'm going to extend that definition to anyone who tells you or makes you feel obligated to do something. So, I have a really great story to share about this. I had a friend whose parents nagged and pestered him about cleaning his room. They nagged and pestered him so much that he became spiteful towards them and unknowingly lived a messy lifestyle simply out of spite. He didn't know until he saw a therapist that his messy lifestyle was triggered by his parents from 20 years ago. He didn't know why he couldn't stay clean or organized no matter how hard he tried. So at a certain point growing up, if we're constantly being told what to do, what not to do, how to do it, and how not to do it, at a certain point, the brain gets fed up and it's like, I'm not going to do any of it. And
Mm-hmm.
so the authority issue kicks in. And even when we want to do something, and even if it is healthy, if we have these authority issues, the brain won't allow us to do it because it doesn't want to give these authorities or these people who told us what to do satisfaction for us doing it. And so anytime we do go after doing something, this mechanism will kick in saying, no, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. And so that prevents us from taking action. Now, this isn't a very commonly talked about thing, but a lot of us, it is affecting a lot of us because as we were growing up, we may have gotten upset with all the teachers telling us to study, with our parents telling us to not do this and that. And now we are living a lifestyle resisting all the positives people have told us. And when we do get to a point where we want to do it, like we want to take care of our health, we can because this authority issue kicks in. And what's really interesting about authority issues is we can hold resentment to our grave. Meaning, if we got pissed off at a young age, not wanting to listen to people, we can hold that like into our adult life and even beyond into our older age. In fact, I would say one of the biggest challenges we face as a society is because of this mechanism. Because, as a society, we need to be doing things that are going to be helpful for everyone, which means we need to be told what to do and not to do to a certain extent. But the way the brain is built, sometimes it resists being told what to do and not to do. And so teachers have a lot of challenges because teachers, police officers, judges, because they want to be helpful, they want to give advice, that can help people, move through life better. But just in giving that advice creates opposite outcome.
Right.
Yeah. So that's one.
So,
Go ahead.
and that's interesting because it's like you said, that one, the authority one, can go in different avenues and aspects. It can go to personal, it can go to, political. We're not going to touch the political because
Yeah.
that's just a very touchy topic that
Yeah.
we are not going to discuss because I got my own thoughts on that.
Yeah, and I do, and we won't go there, but I will say a lot of our political views is really driven by authority issues. It's like people don't want to do this or accept this, not because it's going to be useful or helpful, but because of this authority issue response. It's like, no, I want it my way, or I'm not going to listen to that, or I don't want to do what others are saying, or I don't want to do what others are telling me. So a
Mhm.
lot of times people think they are making a conscious decision and choice in the the things they're doing, as well as the ideas that they are supporting. But it's really a lot of these things are being driven by our unconscious that we don't even know about. And if I could take it one step further, the people who are influencing us know about this. So they're using authority issues to convince us to go a certain way or not in a certain way. And the whole time we think we're the ones who came up with the idea or we made the choice, but it was really the clever influence of, groups and people at large.
Right. And then what I was going to mention was, well, what I was going to ask is, how does one differentiate their individuality from actual rebellion? So let's say, for instance, if someone says, this is what should happen, and or let's say, I'm trying to think of a good example. But do you get what I'm trying to
I
ask? Like,
100%,
so can
100%.
you help me with that?
And it is a challenge because again, our authority issue responses can be almost automatic, where um, someone tells us something and we immediately reject it, or we immediately try to one up them, or we immediately, turn it down. And one way to know if we're in an authority issue response is if the response comes before we even have a chance to think about it,
Okay.
right? Yeah. So if it's before we even have a chance to think about it, that means it's an automatic response, which is more than likely an unconscious response that we didn't really put much time and effort into. And this is a
Makes
pattern
sense.
that we'll see in people, when we're out to lunch or dinner and we're having conversations or arguments, where people will just shut down an idea or one up an idea or reject an idea before even hearing it out or thinking it through. More than likely, it's not something that they're really even choosing. The other aspect of authority issues is that, and this is really important for people to understand, oftentimes we're doing it to hurt the other person. Like when we
Mm,
don't listen to the teacher, we're actually doing it to like hurt the teacher. Or when we don't listen to our parents, we're in a way trying to like, you know, make them feel the pain
right.
of not listening to them. But almost always, authority issues hurt no one else but ourselves. Because when we don't listen to the teacher, it doesn't really hurt her grades, it hurts our grades. When we don't listen to our parents, it doesn't really affect their health, it actually affects our health. And what's more is not only are we trying to hurt them, but we're trying to outsmart them by saying, yeah, you're saying I should do this, but I'm going to prove that I can
Mm,
still be successful without listening to you. And so we try harder, we have less success, and we just end up looking like the fool. So these are all other telltale signs of authority issues is we are doing it not necessarily because we want to, but to spite someone else or to outsmart someone else. And if the outcome is we could have gotten more success with less effort by listening to them, but we still choose not to, then we're in authority issues.
interesting.
Yeah.
Those are very great scenarios and perspectives. I That was very very helpful because I was thinking about it. I'm like, okay, but what about individuality? I'm sure there's many people that are going to listen. They're going to be like, no, I'm just my own person. But you said something that was key. It's
Yeah.
that self like defensiveness where you don't allow anything else in.
Yes.
And so that will be the key indicator that resistance is happening. So I like that. Thank you for sharing that. That was very
Yeah.
helpful.
And I can share another reason for resistance, which is in line with authority issues, and it's about being different. So I've traveled to over 100 countries, and this has given me the fortunate opportunity to kind of see different peculiarities in different cultures. And one thing I've noticed about the US culture is that everyone is trying to be different. Everyone and their mothers, whether they're doing it by watching a different show, eating a different diet, doing a different exercise, or wearing different clothes. And it's actually ingrained into our culture because it's a person who is different. Um, what I meant to say, it's ingrained into our media because in a lot of television shows and movies, it's the person who's different who gets attention and the success, as well as the girl or the guy. And it's even in our advertisements because these advertisements are kind of influencing us to be different by buying their products. And so if a person sees themselves as different, their mind will keep them from doing things that will keep them from being different. So if something would make them be more normal or more in line with mainstream, their mind filters through, well, I'm different, so I can't do that. So it'll stop us from doing it. Even though it could be healthy, even though it could be eventually useful, because we get caught in that us seeing ourselves as different, the mind's like, well, I'm different, and doing these things would not make me different. So it's going to prevent us from doing it. And what's really important about the different is we don't have to be resisting mainstream. It's really what the people around us or our inner circle are doing. So if our friends or inner circle listen to alternative music, we'll be like, well, I'm different and I listen to mainstream. So this need to be different is also a cause for resistance in a lot of the things that we want to do when we can't figure out why we can't do it.
Okay. Wow. That was good. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to take a quick break. I'm going to play some music and then we'll come right back.
I can sing this song and make it short or long, but will you understand what the words mean? I can sing it loud or soft, but will you know that it's meant for you? Will the meaning come through? The melody, the tune, ambiance, the mood. Can you feel it? Can you hear it? La melodia, el compás, el ambiente, el sentir. Puedes notarlo, puedes oírlo. Silly me wrote a song for you, but since it is in Spanish, you may have no clue. Did the chorus come too soon? Did I use the right instruments to pull at your heartstrings? What emotions did it bring? I sing and sway as I play the song that's meant for you. I am singing every word is true. Porque quiero que sepas, pero cree que soy muy tímido y por eso canto en otro idioma. I can sing this song.
All right, we're back, and I have another icebreaker for you, Cam.
Sure.
So this one's a bit silly, but we're gonna say it anyway. So,
Okay.
skipping your morning coffee because you think you'll be more productive without it. Self-sabotage or strategy?
Wait, can you repeat that?
Okay. So this is an example. Skipping your morning coffee because you think you'll be more productive without it. Is that self-sabotage or strategy?
I would say it's self-sabotage. Because if a person is used to having coffee every morning, and it does help them get the morning started on the right foot, and it helps them be productive, and the mind starts going, well, you know what? We can skip coffee today. That's a trick of resistance because the mind knows, hey, the coffee is really important for this person to get started on the right foot. And this person does make good progress on it. And well, we're hitting up on something where we don't want him to keep moving forward. And why don't we start by having them think it'll be a good idea to not have coffee?
Right.
And so they step away from coffee and they're feeling a little irritated, agitated. And so they're not making the progress that they normally would. That creates more frustration. And then they may react or do something they wish they hadn't that could sabotage themselves even more. So maybe at their work, they might get upset, say something they wish they hadn't, they get reprimanded. And it's just this vicious cycle of it all coming up just because they decided it would be a good idea to skip coffee.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm a prime example of that because when I do not have my coffee, like let's say I'm just like, you know what, today I'm just gonna detox. Let's just take a break. Yeah, it doesn't work for me. It's like not I'm not functioning properly.
Yeah.
But
But let me
coffee
ask
is
you,
a big thing.
do you have those thoughts when you're actually making good progress and you're moving forward, and then your mind's like, you know, I'm doing pretty good. Maybe I don't need coffee today. And then you stop the coffee for that day, and then you find that you're not as productive and it slows your kind of momentum.
Right.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much for participating in that icebreaker. Okay, so what is one tool or practice that someone can start today to start to move through resistance?
Yeah. So this is a really good question, and I get this asked a lot. I want to preface by saying that resistance isn't something that's easy to kind of overcome. I know we're all looking for the easy solution or something that could really move the needle forward because resistance goes through a whole checklist of items. We kind of have to look at what we're pushing up against and use solutions that work on that specific issue. So if our issues is authority issues, we want to work on, you know, the challenges around authority issues. If it's limiting beliefs, we want to use tips and techniques that work on the beliefs. And sometimes what we use for one area may not work in another area or may actually be counterproductive. So this is really important to understand. But if there was one tip or one tool that could really make a big change in people's lives, regardless of the reasons for the resistance, I would say it's self talk. And self talk, for those who don't know, are statements that you say and repeat of the changes that you want to have or have happen. For example, if a person wants to improve their memory, they could repeat statements like, I have an excellent memory. I easily remember anything I choose. Now, on the surface, it may not seem like repeating such a statement could actually improve our memory, but it's huge. Words are powerful. Words have the ability to go into our mind and reprogram our interactivity to create the outcome. In fact, when we think about, or if a person thinks about, their life and the limitations that they're in, it didn't really come out because they tried all these things and they realized they weren't good enough. It actually came from words. Teachers saying our work wasn't good, parents saying that we can't sit still, bullies and friends laughing and making fun of us. Those were just words, but it seeped in to create the limitations in our life. Now, if words have the power to bring us down, they have the power to bring us up. Though the way the brain is built, it focuses more on the negative versus the positive. So, negative words have a bigger impact on us than the positive. So, that means we need to repeat the positive much more. And we can do that with self talk. And as it relates to resistance and being able to do more, I have created a statement that took me nearly 15 years, traveling to over 100 countries, to narrow it down to this one statement that really hits up on the change that we're seeking when it comes to resistance. And everyone resonates with it. And if a person can repeat this statement, it can have big shifts in their life. So the statement is, I am a do it now person. I easily do things now. I easily accomplish my goals right away. And there's a lot of psychology behind this statement. Because the first part of the statement, I'm a do it now person, it actually creates an identity and self image of a person who does things now. So when the wanting mechanism creates a desire, it filters through resistance, and resistance says, oh, I'm a do it now person. So of course I'm going to do it. Now, the challenge with doing things is that it can be painful and create a lot of strain. So the second part of the statement is, I easily do things now, which conditions the brain to be able to make things much easier when we're doing it.
Mm.
And the third part of the statement, I easily accomplish my goals right away. That's there because it's easy to do a lot of stuff without going in any direction. It's just we can do a lot of busy work. But by saying I easily accomplish my goals right away, it conditions the brain to focus on what we're doing towards a specific end, target, or goal. So if a person says, I'm a do it now person, I easily do things now, I easily accomplish my goals right away, they will naturally start to become a more productive and action focused person. Now, there is a caveat to this because when I say self talk, a lot of times people think it's about writing it down or putting it on the mirror or reading it. Those are helpful, but it's much more helpful to repeat it. Either repeat it out loud or in your head. And if a person can repeat that on a regular basis in the morning, going to bed in the evening, in the shower, cooking, driving, cleaning, whatever, the more they say that, I promise they will find themselves just naturally doing a lot more things.
Right. That's very helpful. And you know what comes to mind, sorry. What comes to mind is the Mel Robbins theory. I don't know if she actually created it, but I'm sure you heard of it. If someone wants to get up in the morning and they're dragging themselves off the bed to kind of like count down like 3, 2, 1, or maybe 5 to 1, and then as soon as one comes, you just automatically get up. Is that kind of similar?
Not so much.
No.
No. It's I have heard that technique and I could see the value in it, especially if we can count down to 3, 2, 1 and actually get ourselves to do it. Because eventually, anytime we start counting down, it creates this habit of once we get to 1, we naturally get up. But unless we have changed the inner wiring in our mind of saying that I am somebody who gets up in the morning, um, there might be resistance.
Right.
So if somebody uses what Mel Robbins has said, the 3, 2, 1 countdown, while also repeating positive talk, like, hey, I wake up early in the morning, then it can be profound. In fact, I have a self talk statement around me getting up early and getting started on my morning routine, which is I quickly jump out I quickly jump into and complete all the items in my morning routine every morning. And I repeat that all the time to condition my brain that when it's morning, I quickly jump out of bed. Not only that, but finish all the items in my morning routine because, I have a lot of items in my morning routine that is extremely helpful for me to get through the day. So it's a little different, but it doesn't mean it's not effective. Though if they can add a self talk to it, it could be very powerful.
Right. Well, thank you so much, Cam. This has been amazing. Thank you for so much for explaining what resistance is and what that looks like in our day-to-day lives. Tell our listeners how, well, first of all, do you have any last words and how they can find you?
Sure. So I want people to understand that wanting doesn't equate to having. Just because they have a want or desire for something doesn't mean they'll be able to take the necessary steps to go after it. And it comes down to resistance. And so this will be really helpful to understand because it's easy when we have a want to think we'll have the natural, just a natural tendency to be able to go after it and see it to the end. But if they can understand that there will be roadblocks and hurdles that come up and that they're themselves causing it, they can be more prepared to see it through the finish. And if anybody wants to learn, more about me, they can go to kamknight.com, KAMKNIGHT.com. I've got a free gift for the listeners. It's called 5 Ways to End Procrastination and Sabotage, which goes deep into the tricks. And if anyone wants to, work with me and one-on-one, they can email me at mentor@kamknight.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Cam. This has been a pleasure. I will speak to you soon, okay?
All right. Thank you very much. This was fantastic.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too.
Have a good day.